Please join me for the flag salute. Okay, we have a few items on our consent agenda tonight. Is there a motion for approval?
I'll move for approval.
Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, consent agenda passes. Student reps, Courtney and Carmen, you guys are up.
Okay, so for ASB this month, ASB recently held the Mr. SHS pageant. The show is a huge success, raising a grand total of $22,000 for Medical Teams International. Also, congratulations to Sam Roth for winning the title of Mr. SHS 2016. ASB is now preparing for Spring Week, which includes dress-up days, the Spirit Games, a talent show, and the end-of-the-year video.
The She Is Safe Club wrapped up their Boys and Girls Prom Drive for Seattle World High School last week. The amount of girls' clothing donated was tremendous. On the other hand, the boys lacked. On a good note, we weren't the only school participating in this prom drive for Seattle World High School, so hopefully the other schools collected a more promising total for the boys.
Our concert choir recently competed at the state competition and brought home a 5th place state trophy.
3 FBLA students will be representing Silverton High School at the National Leadership Conference. Emily Hike, a sophomore in Electronic Career Portfolio, Jessica Moreno, a freshman in Sales Presentation, and Grace Oury, a freshman in Introduction to Financial Math. The conference will take place in Atlanta, Georgia from June 27th to July 2nd. The SHS FBLA chapter also received an award for the largest membership in the state and received 2nd place for 5A Chapter of the Year at the State Business Leadership Conference last month.
Track and field has had a season full of success. The JV athletes competed at their district meet at home last Friday, and the varsity athletes will be competing at districts this Wednesday and Thursday at Central High School.
Okay, the softball team has a variety of players ranging from triathletes to choir and band participants to academically excellent students, 2 of which, Maggie Buckles and Alex Malloy, were awarded Athlete of the Week this season. The coaching staff has definitely been the foundation to the success the Foxes had this season. Ralph Cortez, along with Leah Cortez and Felix Moraz, have been very supportive and helpful to the girls in their journey through this season. Over the past few years, Silverton's softball program has grown tremendously, and it only has the potential to grow more successful. One thing that can make a huge impact on the program is incorporating softball and baseball as a sport offered by the middle schools in Silverton. We are starting to have less and less girls interested in the sport due to the fact that they've never had the opportunity to try it. We would like to give that back to some of your younger boys and girls who aspire to participate in softball and baseball in high school, the way they want to participate in other sports like track because they were offered in middle school.
So baseball. Our varsity team currently sits at 8 and 9 in conference, which is 4th place. They have 4 conference games remaining and are in a very good position to host a first-round playoff game. Our team has seen some fantastic pitching performances this year, and most recently had all 3 starting pitchers throw complete games in the same week. Combined for the 3 games, they only gave up 1 run in 21 innings of play. The JV and freshman teams have also had some recent success, with both teams already having more wins than last season's JV and freshman teams. Both have 4 games remaining in the spring season. Once the spring concludes, they will be moving into the summer season. They plan to have about 30 players from their spring rosters make up 2 summer teams. Each of the summer teams will play approximately 20 games with the potential to compete at the state tournament. They will also be taking our varsity summer team to a 4-day tournament in Bend in the middle of June.
The boys tennis team finished the league season with a 7-7 record. The doubles teams led by Dylan Fogarty and Clay Matthews were strong all season and won the majority of their matches. The team as a group showed great improvement and is looking for a strong showing at districts.
The girls' tennis team once again has a winning record. With 12 wins and 4 losses overall and 10 wins and 4 losses in league, they placed 3rd behind Corvallis and Crescent Valley, who have year-round USTA players. The first doubles team of Emma Anderson, senior, and Grace Milner, a sophomore, are ranked 3rd in our district, and barring an upset, will represent Silverton at the state tournament. So that's all we have this month. And this is my last school board meeting, so I just wanted to thank you all for being such a great audience for 2 years, and it's been really nice getting to know some of you. So,
All right.
not that guy.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Courtney.
Well, good job, Courtney. You've done a good job. Not to brag or anything. You've done a good job the last 2 years, so thank you for coming every month.
Thank you.
And Carmen, we'll see you on next month, I take it.
month, yeah.
Good.
Thank you. Good job.
Okay, I'm going to open it up to our first audience with visitors tonight. Again, welcome to the meeting tonight. We're glad to see you. If you wish to address the board at this time, we want you to be sure to sign in before you present, and then give us your name and address. In order to ensure equity among the speakers, the board will limit remarks to 3 minutes per individual. If a group of 3 or more wishes to appoint a representative to speak on its behalf, the board will extend the time for remarks to 5 minutes. So first off, we have from Community Roots Charter, Dan Kaplan and Miranda Traeger. Yeah, go ahead. No, you probably don't have to. We already have you on the agenda. So
Well, thank you for the opportunity to come and sit before you with some new changes. I just wanted to make sure that we formally address the board. So when a group of us began the work to open a Montessori charter school in the Silver Falls School District, we were told that there are 2 major reasons that charter schools fail. One was financial instability. The other was lack of facilities. From its inception, the Community Roots School has worked diligently to make sure our school is financially sound. And our efforts to find the best home for our school have always been generously supported by the Silver Falls School District. The Community Roots opened our doors in the fall of 2009 with 32 students in a district leased classroom out at Monitor School. It's amazing that we've grown from that. The next year, we moved into new classrooms at Monitor School. When the Monitor School was no longer an option for us, CRS began an extensive search for a new home. We explored it all. The Silver Falls School District provided a facility option for us at the Schlater Street campus, and we have called the old high school home for the last 5 years. Not long ago, we were approached by the Silverton Friends Church about a potential lease option for our school. This was a new opportunity that needed to be explored, and it has been determined by our CRS board that we would like to move into lease negotiations with the church. The Montessori Modular Campus, planned to be housed at the Silverton Middle School, has a 90 student occupancy cap. That would have allowed our 90 first through 6th grade students to be on the Silverton Middle School campus. Our charter allows growth to 135. This year we offered our first ever kindergarten option to district students. And based on occupancy caps, we house them off-site, splitting up our school community. This new facility at Silverton Friends Church will allow us to grow our entire school in one location. That is invaluable to our community, as families with multiple children can all be in one spot, and staff can all feel supported within the one campus community. We understand that this decision has an impact. We would like to try to mitigate that impact. One thing I've always admired about our school community is the call to action response. If something needs done, all we need to do is ask. Then our school community comes ready to work. The Community Roots School community is committed to help it with manpower and to support the district students as they move into the Silverton Middle School campus. We have already begun talking with our current students and staff about how we can leave our current location in such a way that it helps foster a great environment for the next group to come in. I wanted this opportunity to come in front of the district to thank you for the intentions and the plans to include Community Roots School in the overall design of the new Silverton Middle School campus. CRS has always had a great working relationship with Silver Falls School District staff and you, the board. My hope is that this new facility can continue to provide a valuable public Montessori educational option for Silver Falls School District students all in one campus. So thank you so much for your time and your continued support of our school.
I had planned on making some comments, but I will say that it's an interesting experience being a board member for a charter school. I started it personally a few years ago, mostly because my wife told me to. But there's been an evolution, and what I've determined and what I've found is that we have a responsibility as a school board to do what's in the best interest of our constituents, the students and the staff who work within the district. And that's been our sole purpose at the CRS board. But more importantly, or as importantly, we have to do that within the framework of what's good for the greater district. And I would be remiss if I didn't say publicly that we've always kept that top of mind in every decision we've made as a charter school board. And that feeling is reciprocated in thought and action. So I want to thank you all publicly for your support throughout these years.
Good questions. Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for you guys, so.
It's good for everybody. Just wish it would happen a little bit earlier in
Yes.
our process, but
Yes.
we understand.
Yes.
Yes.
We're ready. Do some work.
Okay, thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, would anyone else like to address the board?
I'm getting old, so I brought some notes tonight. Sarah Weitzman, Silverton. My address is back there. I'm sure you guys can find it. Oh no, where'd they go? I didn't time it. Hopefully I'm within 3 minutes, sorry. And I don't want to sound like a broken record because I spoke to many of you at the budget committee. But we're a public school, so we listen to the people because the schools belong to the people who created them by consent, who are supported by taxation as stated in the abridged policy from the people in their school district. Anyhow, making music is essential to learning, the enjoyment of life, and the preservation of culture. I'm very, very, very concerned and upset about the elimination of FTE for a music teacher at Mark Twain Elementary. The immediate effect is, yes, we gained this new full-time media specialist to maintain all of the devices necessary for the elementary kids. And while I believe and it's true that young people need to be computer savvy, there's a significant body of research about the value of music as preparation for the 21st century workplace. Business leaders and other employers place a high value on qualities such as teamwork, concentration, creativity, problem-solving abilities, and all the skills used by dedicated music students. And when you consider staffing cuts, you want to think, as far as a music teacher goes, I'm reading this book called Advocacy for Music, and they talk about student to faculty ratios, and music teachers, they see every single kid in the school. In addition, what Mrs. Hannon had talked about at the budget committee, having music just be absorbed by regular teachers, we're adding pressure onto those other elementary teachers. Can we guarantee that the current teachers are comfortable teaching elementary music? Are they comfortable holding a tune? Are they comfortable teaching basic music skills? And can we guarantee that the current suggested curriculum recommended by Oregon Music Education standards that we have uninterrupted sequential general music taught twice a week at all grade levels for a minimum of 30 minutes? In addition to, I know the ORS don't specifically say music, they say arts, but. So those are just the immediate effects, but let's think about long-term as well. If we cut now, how are we gonna play catch-up for the long term? When these children who don't get elementary music school then come to 5th grade knowing nothing about rhythm or music or anything, and then want to be involved in choir or band and don't have any basic background. And especially for long-term collapses our secondary music programs, which are doing really well right now as our fifth state and state and with the choir and our upcoming state performances with band this coming Friday.
About 1 minute, Sarah.
Okay. I believe you have a right and responsibility as a board to establish the policies that all children have equal access to music education in all grades, and consistency in music education is something that we need to focus on. I don't think that you're going to save any money by cutting this now. I think in the long term, you're going to have more, it's going to be counterproductive. So I'm really hoping that you take a really serious look at this, and that you have time before you have to adopt the budget in June. So please fix this. Thanks.
Any questions for Sarah? Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Anyone else?
I signed in back there, is that good, Matt?
Pardon me?
I signed in back there, do you want me to sign in?
Yeah, you can sign in up here too.
Again?
Yeah.
My name's Ray Kaiser, 828 Sun Valley Court, Silverton. And again, I'd like to thank all of you folks, you guys, for your diligent service on the school board. I've been there, done that a long time ago, and I know kind of what it's like. I have two items to discuss. I'm not sure the budget is going to be cut, but I said with potential budget cuts looming, part of which may be caused by people like me who continue to draw their PERS benefits, right? I want to emphasize that every program should be under scrutiny. In particular, Silver Falls has done very well athletically. It's an important program, but that does not mean that the athletic department is a sacred cow. I do not believe that fixed percentages should be applied across the board, but that every aspect of the budget should come under appropriate scrutiny. We'll be out of town Thursday for the budget public hearing, so I wanted to pass those points on to you this evening. Secondly, at the last school board meeting, Mr. Hannon gave a presentation regarding student grades. I'm here, I hope, to constructively criticize his data. His report was mostly based on average grades of various athletic teams, and I think any conclusion based on this data can be misleading. I think that the OSAA is also a culprit in this case because the Oregon School Activities Association is the organization that gathers the data and publishes the top 10 teams, for example. Good students who are also athletes is a happy situation indeed. But to imply that athletics, at least this is what I took from the presentation, but to imply that athletics of itself produces students, good students, is not true. For example, we don't have a lacrosse team, so I'm using the lacrosse team has an average team GPA of 3.5. Wonderful. But this average is produced by 4 valedictorians who are sitting on the bench, and the leading scorer has straight D's. Another thing you could say is, well, gee, you know, the athletic team has got a really high GPA because all those people are taking Mickey Mouse courses. You know, that's a conclusion. I'm not saying that's true, but that's the sort of thing you have to be careful about. Statistically, if you had looked at 12 students on a basketball team, for example, that is not a statistically valid sample. There just aren't enough people involved.
One minute, Ray. 1 minute.
Go ahead.
1 minute.
Okay. There's an old adage that figures lie and liars figure. I'm not implying that Mr. Hannon or anybody else is a liar. Don't believe that. I've known Mark for a long time. The message of this adage is that numbers can often be interpreted in many ways, and that when one uses numbers to make a point, it's important to adequately describe the situation to which the numbers apply. Using averages is especially risky. So I think that grades should be presented as a histogram that shows all students. In many cases, we should expect to see a bell-shaped curve. Various categories can be used, and it's the task of the administration to pick categories that accurately reflect trends and progress. An obvious one would be grade level. A wonderful one would be one that is skewed to higher grades. In my opinion, and finally, good grades come from motivation, from parental support, and a host of other personality traits. And we need to use our data that we have available to figure out the big picture, not just a small piece of it. Thank you.
Any questions for Ray? Okay, thank you, Ray.
You bet.
Would anyone else like to address the board? Karen?
Good evening. My name is Karen Almquist, 895 Woodland Drive, and I've been employed with the Silver Falls School District beginning in 79, excuse me. My career goes back to 1976 when I first started. So today you are receiving my resignation and request to retire. And I want to thank everyone for allowing me to give back to my community where I studied at Silverton High School as a musician and was involved in the choral, band, and string program at that time. We had an orchestra at the high school level. So I wanted to share with you, I have some questions about and concerns for the future of Silver Falls School Music Program. So when Jean Elliott's music position was cut at Eugene Field School, she was assigned my .75 FTE position at Central Howland Scotts Mill School because of her seniority. I was left with a .3 something position, and with that, I decided to retire. My FTE was cut .45. With the budget cuts to music, my colleagues and I wonder, is it correct that administrative FTE was added? And I will let the board ponder that question and move on. Tim Duffy will be teaching at 4 schools next year, Robert Frost, Bethany, the middle school at Schlater Street, and he was given the high school jazz band 0 period. As a result, he was told that the 5th grade band may have to be cut since there isn't time in his schedule. Clearly, his 5th grade beginning band is a priority in developing a fine high school band. So we just have some questions we are pondering, and we hope that you will continue to ask these questions. And that's all I have in my remarks. So do you have any questions for me?
Any questions? No, other than thank you for your years of service.
Thank you.
And teaching music
It's been
to
a
the kids.
pleasure and a blessing to
You've
me.
done a good job, great job,
Yeah.
so thank you very much.
Going to miss it. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move along to discussion items. We have a second reading on a few policies tonight. We'll go through them one by one in case anybody had anything extra on them. BBFA, Board Member Ethics and Conflicts of Interest. Anything? Okay, BBFB, Board Member Ethics and Nepotism. Okay, and the last one, GBC, Staff Ethics. Again, second reading, so we'll have one more before we adopt these next time. Okay, our next discussion item, we had an RFP out for real estate services to work on marketing the Eugene Field property. And we had a committee meet on that, and they came up with the firm Sperry Van Ness Commercial Advisors LLC out of Salem. And a couple of those guys are here, Tom Hendry and Kurt Arthur, are gonna give us a little talk, and any questions you guys have, I'm sure they'll be willing to take those. Once again, we don't always have the recipients of RFPs come in front of the board, but this was part of the RFP on this one, so we think because of what this one involves, it's a good idea to make it very public, so. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and we're very delighted to be here and honored to be here. My name is Tom Hendry, and I'm with Kurt Arthur, our Managing Director of SVN Commercial Advisors in Salem, Oregon. And we're here because we were asked to come for a final interview after submitting the RFP. We visited the Eugene Field School and toured it and submitted the RFP. So tonight we were asked to come discuss our ideas about marketing, and I think most of that will come from questions from you. Mr. Belando has given me guidance in what we would do tonight. So simply put, I'm going to give you a brief overview of Sperry Van Ness, what we now are calling SVN Commercial Advisors, and a little bit about the people in our company, and then we'll just open it up for your questions.
Good.
So our company, SVN Commercial Real Estate Advisors, is actually a national company. We're a franchise of SVN. SVN is the 6th largest national real estate brokerage company in the country. We basically go by the guidance of our corporate mission, which is to create amazing values for our clients, our colleagues, and our communities. And while that sounds lofty, we feel that we have the core values that actually fulfill on that. And some of the components of what we do that are differentiates SVN from some other realtors is our openness and all-inclusiveness of the entire brokerage community. Some companies will not actually go out and market and list their properties so that the entire brokerage community can see them. We immediately put our listings out across all the brokers in the United States. Another tenet of our core values is that we actually do a 50% commission split 100% of the times. So anytime that we list a property, a representative of a buyer is going to get 50% of the commission, the stated commission in the deal. We have leading edge technology tools, and we have innovative marketing plans. So we feel that there's more to go on with that, but we feel that we have a different platform through that core values in our company. But what really makes us different is our local touch. And I am fortunate to be joining a company that has over 100 years of experience in commercial real estate. Kurt has been in the business for 27 years, I believe. Did I get that right?
Don't date me.
Okay, long time. Kurt has been named Realtor of the Year 3 different times, twice for commercial and once for residential. And Kurt has been the top producing realtor in the Mid-Willamette Valley for the last 6 years. He also has the vision and experience that leads our group to be a company that actually produces twice the average commission per broker versus our competitors in the Mid-Willamette Valley. So we have experience dealing with complex transactions. Joining us on our team will be George Gravenhorst, and George is not able to attend right now. George is the president-elect of the Oregon Association of Realtors, and he's actually in Washington, D.C. right now, attending to those duties. And finally, a little bit about me. I just retired from Northwest Natural, the gas utility, after a 24-year career there. And I decided to come on because of the things you can see. I'm pretty proud of the team I'm working with. So I decided to come on board with Kurt and his team and help move commercial real estate and be a commercial advisor to people in their capital properties. So with that, I guess I would like to just turn it over to your questions.
Questions?
You mentioned your innovative marketing plans. Can you tell us some examples, some things you might do?
Sure, that's a great question. We have, part about when I decided, so I've been in the business 26, not 27 years, but when I decided to open up SVN 9 years ago, I'd had the ability, I'd been with another national firm for 17 years prior to opening up this company, and I knew I never wanted to open up Kurt Arthur and Associates. I believed in national branding, education, marketing tools, and so on and so forth. SVN has a proprietary marketing system that is unlike anything I know exists in our industry. And as an example, as we built the proposal to respond to the RFP for the school district, as we did that, we actually already went ahead and modeled our website. A lot of other companies in our industry may have the good fortune of winning an assignment like this and go back to their office and high five and okay, now what do we want our marketing materials to look like, and who are we going to market it to, and how are we going to get it out? Our system in responding to the RFP has already built all of our marketing materials, a website for the property, document vault, email mailers, and the list goes on and on and on. Before I really talk about innovative marketing, let's talk about our number one mission for every single client we ever work with, and it will not change for the school district. We are here to help you accomplish your goals. Nowhere in our name will you see the word broker or agent. We don't consider ourselves that, even though we're licensed like everybody else. We take great pride in being advisors to our clients, because Tom talked about our production per person. We're that way because we're ingrained in this industry, we're ingrained in our communities, and we take an advisory approach with all of our clients. If we do the right job advising the district, the transactional side of the business takes care of itself. So we talk about innovative marketing. The first thing what we've got to do is making sure that we're advising you guys correctly, that we understand the goals, the needs of the school district. And we also understand the asset backwards and forwards. That's why we were here this afternoon meeting with the planning department. It's why we were out at the Oregon Garden trying to talk to them about what their occupancy rates are year after year after year, trying to understand where the needs, and so we can help the school board define what the highest and best uses for that pieces of property are. Once we do that, that's where the innovative marketing starts. So step one, let everybody know about it right away. Don't hold it in our back pocket. Don't wait weeks to get marketing material out. The day we sign an engagement agreement with the board, we're in the market that night. So the general public, the other real estate brokers, which is a big thing for us, we want them to know about it, because the more people that know about it, the more interest there is in the property, and that creates a better value for you as our client, right? Once we then start to talk about we can all agree on what some of the highest and best uses for this property are, then we really zone down. We've got the technology to be able to go in, whether it's hospitality, mixed use, as we talk about city council identifying mixed use and some opportunities for that property. Then we start really dialing in with our technology about who the users are, who the developers are, who the owners are, who the tenants are, that we think will be valuable to that. And we've got all of that technology in-house. So it's a fun system to work with. It's for us to be able to come here and make a promise like we are to you tonight. It's great to be able to have that technology to really be able to drill down in when we start talking about innovative marketing, that we can do just that. Speed to market, innovation to market.
I didn't get a chance to look through your packet, but do you have experience with schools and, situations like this?
We do. We have a lot of public sector. Now, do we have experience selling a 100-year-old school? No.
Yeah.
But again, that just comes down to redevelopment and highest and best use. But in the package, Mr. Chair, you'll see an awful lot of our experience, and that ranges from the state of Oregon. We've done over 750,000 square feet of different transactions with the state of Oregon. One of my minor claims to fame was back in the early 1990s, worked with the state legislature to redefine ORS statutes to allow state and other governmental agencies to sell excess properties, and rather, especially with the state, not put it back into the general fund. They could put it for capital improvements for those agencies. We've had the good fortune of completing over 10 successful transactions with the Salem-Keizer School District, including selling them their current administrative building and 9 different leasing assignments. We've been selected by the State of Oregon Department of Energy through the same public notification process to take a defunct energy property in Millersburg that was funded by the Oregon Department of Energy. They loaned an operator over $8 million, and we got brought in to say, what do we do with this? And we helped them outline a strategy where we dispose of the asset in 9 months. We've successfully been awarded contracts by the Salem-Keizer Transit District for leasing for disposition as well. So while I've not sold a 90 or 100-year-old school building, no, we have tremendous experience doing a lot of public sector work.
Okay, good.
So it sounds like you're building a pool right now who you might target on potential.
I gotta say, the meeting with Jason at Public Planning today was phenomenal. It really helped us open our eyes. We had we've read everything and we read city regs all the time, but to be able to sit down with city staff and really talk about what we can do, we have to obviously focus about what we can't do as well. We have height restrictions and we have some other things we've got to deal with. But yeah, it was invaluable, and us just being here for a few hours this afternoon, really rolling up our sleeves and going and talking to people, understanding what we think we're scratching the surface on what the needs here are in the community. It's exciting. It's going to be a very exciting project. And walk through the building again this afternoon, so it was great.
What do you guys like about the site and the building? Anything interesting interesting that makes like, oh, this is a interesting property that somebody might like.
Yeah.
Well, having toured the building with Andy a couple, 3 weeks ago, it's striking, beautiful site. And downtown Silverton is a beautiful place. And it's got a lot of history with it. It just sort of emanates history, and it's just a very, very unique site. Whether it becomes redeveloped or whether someone can come in and restore it.
Right.
So that's what strikes me. You all know much better about what kind of uses maybe that Silverton would like to see there. Our role here is to maximize the value, and take your input, and I guess to add on to that, what I would suggest, what I would like to do, I'm going to be kind of the front runner on this, and Kurt's going to be providing me all the oversight and vision on how to do this, but I'll be out here a lot. I'd like to meet with staff once a month, make sure we're updating you on our marketing plans, on the progress, and really sit down at the table and talk about the strategy of what we could do with this property. And actually, Kurt and I were talking this afternoon. It would have been great if we would have known 2 years ago. If you guys had been planning this, we probably could have thought of things ahead of time. But we'd be open to, we'd like to be able to strategize with you and give you our input as commercial advisors as to, what's the best way to go forward with this property.
If you take this school and remove it from the equation, moving forward, we'd love to establish a relationship with the district to where when you do have real estate questions, whether it be school sightings, whether it be this old school building that we've got, for no charge whatsoever, just the fact that we've got the relationship, we'd love to have a seat at the table just to give you our professional advice on if it's needed. So that's really what Tom's talking about. And about the building, I love the freaking basketball court. I'd love to have that in my backyard. It's just that's an old school gym. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, Tom had mentioned kind of some of the highlights, and I don't want to go down a path of being a downer here, but I'm going to ask the converse of the question.
Sure.
Here. So what are your biggest concerns about marketing a property like Kitchen Field?
Well, certainly the age of the property, and I'll tell you the best things about the property are the site location. You've got enough depth that with setbacks and so on and so forth. There's some things we can do there. You got a great core of the building. You have a community that's really lacking in community space. You guys are here in this hall, and we've heard all the stories about how Silverton First Citizens Banquet couldn't be held in Silverton this year because the space conflicted. So there certainly sounds like there's a need for space, there's a need for hospitality, there's goals and visions by the city council on mixed use. I would tell you that from a conversion standpoint, converting old classrooms is difficult. We've seen it a number of different times. The most recent one, locally, if you want to go take a look at it, you can drive and go take a look at it, is the old Abaquaw School in Salem. It's right off of Kubler Boulevard, Kubler and Battle Creek. Beautiful job by John Miller and his team of renovating that school. And they've chosen to keep the classrooms largely intact. They've got 100-year-old original chalkboards in there, and they're looking for companies. They're willing to wait. That's the good news for them. They don't care. They're paid cash for everything. They're willing to wait for the right companies to come in there and lease space for office space that can use that kind of environment. Just not typically the right, the right recipe for success for a successful commercial project or redevelopment project in Silverton, Oregon, would be my opinion. I think the core of the building, right in the center core, as you walk up those stairs, I think you've got some tremendous options with that. And I think there's opportunities for you to, and I knock on wood, you could potentially keep that strong core of the building and redevelop around the outside of it. But again, we don't develop with the market. And so the market will determine what will happen, what the highest and best uses are. And I think there'll be some very interested folks that want to come take a look at this asset.
Along those lines, your conversations with the city will be key, so I encourage you to keep that up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, other questions?
So initially, with your gut, who would you market this to? When you walk in, who are you saying,
When I first walked in, I said, this has McMinimans written all over it. Right? I'm sure everybody did. We've all been to Kennedy School or one of the facilities there. So certainly that's someone that we would approach, or they may be already, teed up and ready to approach us. We went out to the Gardens Hotel and talked to them this afternoon, and found out, they were very open with us, said, yeah, we're short on hotel, they'd like to see a hotel. So that, there's possibilities like that, we probably need to do more due diligence to explore and bring out all the different possibilities, but the zoning, I was very encouraged at the planner's office today that the zoning will be changed once it becomes a non-public use, and it would be a downtown commercial fringe zone, which is the most flexible zoning, so I think it opens up a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, I'm not, and that is such a key point. Usually in the public zoning process and in a planning process, any type of property like that that is zoned one thing and is sold to be used as another, typically, as most of us know, have to go through a comprehensive plan amendment and a zone change. This one doesn't. It's already set. So once it sells from public and goes private, the zoning's already there. So that's a huge benefit for that property. But again, I think you're talking about a determination. We're going to be going after probably complete redevelopers of the site, and we'll also be looking at a large core group of people. Tom mentioned McMenamins, but McMenamins doesn't always want to own. Sometimes they want to lease. So in that scenario, you've got to find the right party, the right person that can transform that property and deliver them a finished product that they would like. And I'm just using them as a name. So we'll certainly be looking and talking to people who have a history of appreciating the historical nature and character of a property like that, but we'll also be talking to folks that have a history of urban infill redevelopment, meeting the needs of a community.
Good. Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you very much,
Thank you
guys.
for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. And also, this is an action item later tonight, approval of this one.
And we'll stick around. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, thank you. We also went out with an RFP for transportation services earlier in this spring, and committee met last week, and we came up with Durham Transportation. And Mark Harrington was there last week, and he asked if he could come to the board meeting tonight, so he's here to give us a little spiel.
Well, good evening.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for having me. We're truly excited to be here and become a part of your community. Just a little bit about kind of who Durham is, where we came from, what we are. We can actually trace our history back to 1917, so next year will be our 100th birthday. We started in 1917 in Southern California with 3 special ed routes. And today we've grown to the second largest contractor in North America. It's never been our desire to be the biggest, but we do want to be the best. But we operate in 32 states, Canada. We run about 25,000 buses a day, transport about 1 million students a day, have about 29,000 employees, almost 500 customers, and about 230 facilities nationwide. So it's a big operation, but it's what makes us so successful is our people and how we treat them. It's all about buses and drivers, and that's the heartbeat of our company is the drivers. And we truly value our people and take very, very good care of them and do everything we can to retain our people. We certainly live by our values each and every day, and first and foremost is safety, our people, the community, excellence, and our customers. And we're excited to be here. We look forward to a long-term partnership with the district and the community, and I'm just thrilled to be here. Thank you for having us.
Okay, questions for Mark?
Do your buses plan on having satellite phones?
Now, hey, we don't plan on having satellite phones unless it's necessary. We want to make sure we can communicate with all our vehicles. We put two-way radios in our buses. All of our buses are GPS equipped. That's standard across North America. And if we find that there's an area that is a dead zone and we can't communicate, we will take the necessary steps to make sure there's a backup phone on that bus.
Other questions?
Question for you in terms of staffing. I'm asking this because I just don't know. So you
Yeah.
have an existing pool of drivers that
Yep.
are here with another vendor.
Right. It's
So
first and
how does that
foremost is
work?
our goal is to hire all of them.
Okay.
Okay, first, they have first priority, and before we go anywhere else, I mean, we don't bring people in from outside the community, we hire from within the community. It's just there's a training process. To train new drivers is about a 6-week process. But certainly, we will be in a few days coming back here, we will hold what's called a meet and greet with the current drivers, talk to them about what we're proposing, where we're coming from, to kind of put their mind at ease. Then we'll be back a few weeks later to hold a hiring event to start that process and that ball moving. So it's always about the current people that are here. Then we'll take account, see where we're at, and then start recruiting for new people. But we always recruit, we always train, and we always hire. Typically speaking, in a situation like this, we retain right around 93 to 95% of the current workforce.
Can you speak to the recruiting? I think in the last couple of years, I know there's been we've had a real difficult time finding drivers with the previous company.
Yep.
And how do you recruit? How do you do things differently?
You know, it's a challenge. It's all about how we treat our people and the things that we offer our employees. We offer our employees some different benefits that our competitor does. And we offer, of course, free training and so forth. But again, it's not all about the dollar, but wages are important. We understand that. When we come into new areas such as this, we never, ever take wages backwards, ever. We take them up or we keep them where they're at. But there's other perks and benefits that we offer our employees that they're not getting now.
And what's the closest school district that you're operating in today?
St. Helens,
Okay.
and then next year we'll be in Scappoose. And so, yeah, so we're not too far away. The opportunity is going to be amazing for the synergies with having 3 operations so close together. That'd be nice.
Okay, other questions? Okay,
Thank you
you,
very
Mark.
much. Thank you.
Again, this is an action item later tonight, so any other discussion items? Okay, staff reports. Andy, update on Silverton Middle School.
Good evening. We have, if you haven't had a chance to drive by the middle school and take a look, there's significant activity going on outside, and quite a bit of activity continues to go on inside. I want to focus maybe less on the middle school because we are on track, on target, and we're moving ahead just as planned at this point. While we've experienced a little bit of additional abatement and some minor modifications to the structure, generally speaking, we haven't found any major surprises, and I'm knocking on wood because we're about halfway into the project. So we'll keep you updated on that. I do want to comment. I gave each one of you a copy of the design plan for the covered play area at Mark Twain. I want to focus a little bit on Mark Twain this evening. That's a 100 by 55-foot concrete slab with a 20-foot extension on the weather side of the building, on the west side of that. Knowing that we can't afford at this point anyway to wall in that structure even partially, the cantilevered extension of the wall on that weather side we think will help with addressing weather, rain, and other concerns without the walls at that point. It is a shed-style roof. You'll notice that right away, and I think from a cost management standpoint, that's the best investment for what we can afford with this. I think the benefit of this is that it also allows us to continue using the current existing or the concrete pad for the existing basketball courts that we have on it on one side, while the other side, the basketball hoops, will have to be removed. So it'll still allow for that purpose because quite a few members of the community use that on weekends in the evening and so forth. So I think it's a solid structure. It's one that we still have a little bit of design work yet to finish, and otherwise we have plans in place to go out and get quotes on that as soon as the next 2 or 3 weeks, and be able to have something even to the board, hopefully by the June meeting for your approval. That's the target at this point, with construction to occur before the end of the summer. And a project like this isn't a long project to put up. It's my understanding anyway, but we are looking at mid to late summer before it can be fully constructed. We are working on plans for excavation of the playground, which will be closer to the school. As you know, the covered play area will be over the concrete. The playground will be a part of the elevation closer to the school, but not so close to the school that it would be a distraction to others. We have a consultant that we're working with specifically to playground design from the city of Salem. They actually have installed multiple playgrounds for Salem Kaiser School District. They've evaluated the playground equipment we have at Eugene Field and believe that there's a lot of life left in that equipment, and believe the large majority of it can be moved up to Mark Twain without difficulty. At this point, again, based upon the estimates that were coming in, we still believe that we're on track to maintain that $150,000 or less figure, which is good news. Again, we won't know for certain until we get all of the final contracted amounts in. So that's good news. We have a moving plan in place. We've hired a local consultant named Phil Appleton, and Phil does project management for situations like this, managing multiple facilities that have to be moved over a short period of time. He's developed a plan that's been communicated to the Mark Twain and the Eugene Field and Robert Frost 6th grade staff. We've also had details of that shared with parents of 6th graders, incoming 7th graders, incoming 8th graders, I should say. So we've had lots of communication going to parent groups with parent nights over the last couple of weeks as well, discussing the details of the move and what that looks like. We fully believe that we're going to have the move executed and complete in time for the start up to the school year. I have no doubt that there'll be some details that are a little difficult to anticipate at this point, but we're also doing our best to prepare staff for those last minute adjustments and changes that need to be made. So it's a big project, and I think we have done nothing but shared that from the get-go, and I think we have the right people on board to help make it happen. Phil Appleton's going to do a great job for us. And then finally, I did want to share with you, just so you have some numbers at this point, the credit that we've been able to confirm specific to Community Roots moving to another site at this point is $225,500. So that's $176,000 with a renegotiation of the modulars. Ramps and decking, that's an action item this evening, but that's $44,000 credit. And then moving the modulars themselves, we still have to move 2, and we had contracted for 3, so we have about a $5,500 savings to that amount. So, and there's still a credit to be obtained from our contractor simply because the work with the electrical and low voltage to that site will now not need to occur. So that's all good news at this point. So we're moving ahead, and we're doing what we had planned to do, and at this point, again, we're on that timeline, and we're continue to be at or close to budget. I will share that that we have seen some preliminary change orders. Most of them are small, and I can't even tell you exactly what those are going to be. I've seen a couple that are in the $2,000 range, one in about the $8,000 or $10,000 range. Some of those are unanticipated, but they continue to be shared with us, and then are fully vetted by our architect, engineer, and by the school district prior to their approval. We're still slightly over budget with the project. We're doing everything we can to keep it slightly over budget and keep it there, and I believe we're going to get there.
Good. Questions for Andy on middle school?
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about going out for an RFP so late for the play shed. When you do go for the RFP, I think I'd suggest to see if you get any bites. I know it's not ideal, but if they were to build it in the fall time frame, to give them a little more time, you might get better pricing.
Yeah, that's a good point. And we actually, based upon procurement rules, don't have to go out for a full RFP. We're able to go out and to get quotes for a project of this size and of this value. And you bring up some very good points, Wally, and Lauren and Joel actually, and I have spoken a little bit about that. We've already begun to put out some information to prospective contractors who have commented their ability to get this in before the end of summer. Cost for that, I think it's fair to say, if we can do installation in, let's say, August, mid or late August, as compared to late September, to see what that cost difference would be, is a fair question to ask, and I'll definitely share that with Lauren. Ask him to do that, Wally.
My guess is most likely you'll get better pricing if you push it out a little bit.
You bet.
So why do we have to hire a consultant to move playground equipment?
No, the consultant is, helped us evaluate. In fact, we haven't even hired this consultant. It's a person who came out and did it at no charge for us. Okay. But we're not specialists in playground equipment. Playground equipment, and maybe not surprising to some folks, but the compliance requirements for playground equipment almost changes as much as construction compliance, with everything from the softness of the surface, to height, to size of metal bars, to smoothness, to texture, to all sorts of things. So we're not specialized in that arena, so we have to find people who are. What it does is it reduces your risk and reduces your liability as a school district when you bring experts in who have that capacity to do that. If we did it ourselves, I'm afraid we'd be exposing the district to more risk than what I'm willing to accept.
Yeah, thanks.
You bet.
Anything else? Okay, Andy, the recommendations for student transportation services and real estate agent.
Yeah, I just kept that on there as a placeholder, Mr. Sheriff. I
talked about it.
recommend both vendors for each of these contracts and believe this has been also a well-vetted process. Thank you to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to Ron for serving on the committees to help select these vendors. This is moving our district in the right direction with the contracting of both of these vendors.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Steve Nielsen, financial report.
Yes, thank you. So, financial statements enclosed in your packets are through the month of April. We continue to track favorably with 98.3% of budgeted revenue received. We'll eclipse the 100% mark in May. We've also running at about 70% of planned expenditures so far through April, and I do still expect us to come below budget and, of course, not be dipping into any reserves. And by the end of the year, further strengthen our position as we get ready for the 17-19 biennium and the PERS rate increases. So things are looking good.
Good. Questions for Steve? Okay. Nancy Griffith, Mark Twain Middle School. Soon to be Silverton Middle School.
So, good evening. This will be the final Mark Twain Middle School presentation to the board. It's very exciting. I actually was here, I think, one of the first board meetings, so a lot has happened at Mark Twain since I was here, and this is one of the last. So, wanted to just share our enrollment is currently at 336 students, so our hallway is pretty packed, and our classrooms are also pretty packed. Next year's going to look a little different. We have a bigger campus and not one hallway. So it's going to be a lot easier to have that many students. Some of the activities that we've done, Daniel Jamza always does the Adopt a Farmer trip, and we take all of our 8th graders to learn about the different aspects of farming, to give them some idea of what farmers do in our community and in the country. And they end it with a reflection on what they learned and what they can do to help maintain this way of life. On April 1st, we had Crazy Day, and that was celebrating our custodian, Mike Craig, who's been with the district for quite some time and is dearly beloved by all of our students and staff. So because April 1st happened on a Friday, we knew it was going to be crazy anyway. We thought, let's just make a theme out of it. Shanna Chandler was our middle school teacher of the year for the school district, so she also got an assembly to thank her for all of her work. This year, we just started doing Teacher of the Month and Classified Staff Member of the Month, and so we have a board to display them. We announce them either in assemblies or over the intercom, and students are the ones who vote on that. And they have to we gave them criteria, and they write a short essay on why their nominee should be Teacher or Classified Staff Member of the Month. So it's been very well received by our students. We always have plenty of nominations every month, so it's been fun. Some of our community connections we do thanks to Darby Hector, and a lot of this is thanks to Darby Hector. We're going to have a Darby Hector Day next year. Veterans Day Assembly, where we honor the veterans of our community. We invite them in, and Brent, I never say his name right, Lucich, who I think plays at the Garden sometimes, came and performed for us. And we were able to honor them. Students gave speeches. We had a couple sing, play instruments. So it's always a wonderful thing. So next year, if you're available and can come, We will do it again next year. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but we plan to do it again. We've had a math and language arts parent night, where some of our math teachers and language arts teachers and our Title I teacher put together an educational evening for parents. And it was our first one, so it wasn't as well attended as we would like, but we plan to continue doing it and earlier in the year next year, because the feedback that we got from the parents that were there was, this would have been great to know early on. And so we plan to do that in October of next year. Daniel Jamsa also puts together a service learning day, and our students go around the community and help out a little bit like the seniors do. And one of the places that we go is the Oregon Gardens. One of the reasons we like to go to the Oregon Gardens is they also volunteer their land for our 7th grade science class to go and do field studies. And so our 7th grade science teacher gets all the equipment that they need to do, measure soil moisture and a lot of different types of things like that. And so we like to give back to them because they allow us to come up there to do that. And we just had our 25th anniversary of the annual Mark Twain Senior Breakfast. And so we were able to acknowledge Dale Kroger for bringing that 25 years ago, to Ross for supporting us for 25 years, and also for Darby Hector, who has also worked on this for 25 years. Darby put together a slideshow of a lot of yearbook pictures from over the years, and that was playing throughout. Some interesting pictures of Andy did not go in the slideshow. I just want to let you know that.
Thank you.
Had your back on that. Okay. So that was wonderful. We invited former Mark Twain staff who've retired, so we have a nice picture of that too. For our school climate, we've been using PBIS this whole year. A recent survey showed that teachers believe that 100% of our teachers believe that all of our students know what the expectations are, and for the most part, they all follow them. So that was some nice data to receive because we put a lot of work into that this year. SBAC math is done, yay, and language arts is just starting. So our students are a little nervous, but teachers are being very supportive, helping them out as they send them into the computer labs. We now have 20 iPads and 36 Chromebooks with a cart. The plan next year is to get 2 more full carts. We're trying to get to that 1-to-1. It's going to take us a little while with the 430-ish students, but that's one of the goals for us, is to really up our technology for the middle school. Obviously, we work on professional development all year, but I'm trying to rely on my teachers to help with that as well. So our language arts teachers did a writing in service for all of our staff to help them with writing in their curriculum. Our special ed teachers have done an accommodations versus modifications training for our staff to help them with how to scaffold their lessons for the special ed students. And then again, we've been working on Danielson, which has been a goal for us for the last 2 years. There's this small thing that we're dealing with all year, which is the move, and so we've really been working on that. We've had an incoming 7th grade night and gave those parents the opportunity. Obviously, we can't see the school, but we had the map up, and we talked about how we would work with our 7th graders, and then we had a separate one for incoming 6th graders because their experience is going to be a little different. So we went to Robert Frost for that and had them come in. And thank you, Mr. Blando. He came to both of those to answer any questions that parents had. I think we're getting there. We're getting there.
So is there apprehension about that, or is there
I think
excitement,
once
or
we
what?
explain to the incoming 6th graders that you guys, it's not going to look that much different, I think that allowed them to relax a little bit more, though there's a few who said, but when do they get to do the electives? And so I think there's going to be more push for getting 6th graders more involved as we go on for a while. But they did seem to breathe a collective sigh when we said it's going to look pretty similar. Had all the 6th grade teachers there to introduce themselves so that they at least had those faces. So we did for the move also, obviously Silverton Middle School, but I had the 5th graders and the 6th graders and the 7th graders and the 8th graders. They gave us some names and they gave us some colors, and then everybody voted on ballots, and so we did end up with the Falcons, and our colors are going to be black, green, and silver, and this is our logo.
Oh, that looks cool.
This is their first t-shirt that we'll have, and we actually had these at the incoming student nights for parents to buy for their kids, and PTC did a pretty good job selling these, so those are nice.
Those are nice.
Yeah, we're excited about it. The logo turned out really well.
Yeah.
We have some upcoming events. We do a special education meet and greet for our incoming 6th and 7th graders, and our special ed teachers put that on. We are going to go to Robert Frost for that, so they don't have to worry about coming to a building that they're never going to be at. A couple of reward things, our final music concert, which if you've not been to one, I encourage you to come. It's pretty impressive what our 7th and 8th grade choir and band sound like, especially this time of year. We have an award ceremony and then the final Mark Twain promotion, which is the day after high school graduation. So that's exciting. If you turn the page, you'll just see some of the pictures from some of the different things that we've done this year. We like to have fun, but we also like to acknowledge the awesome things that we're doing at school.
Very good. Questions for Nancy? Okay, Nancy, thank you
Thank
for the report. Justin Haney, Central Howell and Pradham.
Well, Mrs. Almquist's resignation was a surprise for me. I did not know that. So we will really miss her at Central Howell. And we were planning to have her at Pradham next year. That was part of that plan. I know what she was referring to in her reduced FTE. So they're missing out on someone as well. But she's done an excellent job for our schools. Our enrollment at Central Howell is 179 students, kindergarten through 8th grade. And we have 30 students in our current 3rd grade class. And we need to get that class down by the time they hit the 6th grade, or that can cause a real problem for crowding. September 2nd through April 29th, 10 of our students still have perfect attendance, and I think we were in the 40s in September. But we've had a lot of strep throat at our school this year for some reason. Currently, 64% of our students have 95% or better attendance, and that's the district goals for 95%. But 93% of our kids have 90% or better attendance. So why is there such a big gap? Well, 15 students are within 1 percentage point of 95%, and another 12 students are within 2%. So we're close, and if all those kids can get over the 95% bar, we'll be at 78%. So I'm hoping for a healthy May and June. Mr. Duffy has expanded our band program to 2 days a week after school, and that's a $20 a month fee, which is very reasonable, and lots of kids showing up. Oktoberfest raised $13,000 this year, and they're planning to build a new booth. So the original booth that you've come up to for years to get those nutritious Twinkies and Oreos will be a new booth this next year.
Same menu, though?
Same menu. They couldn't afford that booth without that menu. And they raised another $4,200 in butter braid sales. And butter braids, for some reason, keeps going up and up and up at Central Howell School. Mrs. Almquist, big responsibility. She's put on an outstanding Christmas and spring program, and we're fortunate enough to use our auditorium at the high school, and we have full house. And we recently had a packed house for our Grandparents' Day, and that's a big deal at Central Howell. And when we use our gym now for Grandparents' Day, we remind ourselves of how thankful we are to use the high school auditorium for our music programs. Our parent club brought OMSI to Central Howell for a solids, liquids, and gas show. Mr. Slovic is retiring after 30 years of teaching in the state of Oregon, and not all in Silver Falls, but he will be missed, and we'll have a little retirement gathering for him at the end of the year. We're looking to apply for our Oregon Department of Education PE grant, and we need to get a .75 FTE PE teacher. So we'll have a licensed teacher music, we'll have, hopefully, through a grant, licensed teacher PE. And as I mentioned back in October, cutting our lunch recess to 15 minutes rather than 30 continues to have a dramatic decrease on the behavior problems at recess. They're just out there less time. And it all works out great. At Pradham School, we have 77 students in grades 1st through 8th, because if you remember, kindergartners go to Central Howell from Pradham. And our attendance there, 2 students still have perfect attendance. And Prattham, since over the last few years, Prattham has a little bit better attendance, but they have about half the student body. And so we have 73% of those students with 95% or better attendance, and 97% have 90% or better. But there's still a big gap between that 90 and 95% group, and 8 students have less than 1% away from 95%. So doing well on attendance there. We're looking for those kids to improve their attendance in the last 6 weeks of school. Reed Gilliam, he was our state geography bee, National Geographic State GOB award winner for Prattham School, and he went to a competition. He qualified local contest, and he qualified on a state level computer test on geography, and he went and competed, but that's as far as he was able to get. On April 23rd, our parent club had raised over $10,000 from the pancake feed. A lot of that coming from the silent auctions and the raffle prizes. And Mrs. Tortelot is putting on a spring play after a few years of being away, and that will be on May 19th and 20th at 7 p.m. in our gym, and tickets are on sale. I think they're going to be offering some kind of concessions or treats along with the program. That should be good. Officer Lamoureux has visited both Central Howell and Prattham School, visited all the classes there, kind of a get to know you and situation. Portland Opera to Go, thanks to our parent clubs, came to both schools this year, and that's a great thing for students to see a real live opera singer, or several of them, really up close and loudly. They saw the Elixir of Love. And both schools, parent clubs, organized campus cleanup days to where we go around and pull weeds, put in new bark dust, trim whatever needs to be trimmed, yarded out a tree at Prattham that was just kind of an eyesore, one of those kind of weed-like trees that's just been growing next to the building for years, and we finally got it out of there. So it looks a lot nicer and cleaner. Our kindergarten for next year, we're going to have 24 slots. Right now, we can fill 21 of the 24 slots with either Prattham, Central Howell, in-district kids, or out-of-district with siblings already going to either school, which leaves only 3 slots for 11 kids once we decide to fill those 3. But we're holding off on that until August because I don't know if there's going to be 3 more in our local area that will come and fill that. So there could be several students just not getting into Central Howell. But 24 is a really good number because, like I say, by the time they get to middle school, we have to have them around 20 each so that we can have 60 kids in 3 grades. And so we don't have really huge class sizes in the middle school. Central Howell is 57% resident students, 43% transfers from in-district and out-of-district. And Prattham is 39% resident students and 61% transfers from in-district and out-of-district. And those are new numbers from Sandy Sprower. So those are pretty recent. Any questions about either school?
Okay, thank you,
All right.
Dustin. Thanks for the report. Okay, any board reports this evening? Anybody have anything? Okay. Correspondence? I don't think we've had anything. Second audience with visitors. Would anyone else like to address the board tonight? Okay, we'll move on to action items. First one, approve Durham School Services of Warrenville, Illinois as vendor for district student transportation services for 3 years, beginning July 1st, 2016, at an estimated cost of $2,064,141, 70% of which is reimbursable by the state school funding for the first year of the agreement. Contract details and renewals to occur as per language in the district request for proposals. Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
It would be kind of nice, I mean, that's a lot of reading material, if we were able to get these beforehand, so we have a little better chance to read everything in there.
Okay,
Just
well.
throwing that out there.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Well, we did have a committee that looked at all the proposals, and I was on that committee, we went through them thoroughly, all three of them, and Durham came out unanimously on top, and so, but.
I understand, but
Yeah.
it's still our responsibility to.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
get some there, so.
okay. Anything else? Okay, all in favor of approving Durham for our transportation services, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Second action item, approve SDB contracting services of Hillsborough as contractor for installation of aluminum ramps and decking for the Silverton Middle School project in the amount of $50,659. Is there a motion?
I'll move for approval.
Is there a second?
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, that one passes. Last one, approve Sperry Van Ness Commercial Advisors LLC of Salem as real estate agent for the sale of Eugene Field School and property. Is there a motion?
So move. Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Who was the second?
Wally. Discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Good deal.
Hey, Tim, can I cut in, before we adjourn and everybody leaves, I'd like to just add a comment about the music and some of the, I was wondering if Andy, could you give us maybe some clarification either now or later about any perceived cuts in the music versus maybe sports and stuff? I have a house full of athletes, but I value arts and music, and I pondered this. You know, we keep getting this input from this. I attended all three girls' state championship basketball games in Corvallis, and we had a boisterous band there, loud. It was like a home game. And two of those games, we won by 1 point after some incredible comebacks. And I just wonder if we didn't have that wonderful band, that wonderful music program, if that was worth more than a point. You know, and I just want to make sure that they're supported. You know, we're getting some people that are asking questions, and I just kind of want a little bit more clarification if you could give us, either now or later, you know.
Yeah, and I think it's a really fair question, and I'm happy to give it now as well. I think I can maybe begin from my maybe a concluding statement and move backwards from there, because the reality is what you're experiencing is a reality within this school district, and that the allocations for your school budgets are provided as allowed by the funding level that we have, and as by a pretty committed and I think effective funding formula for this school district, which allows quite a bit of uniformity in multiple areas across the district. But as we have experienced for many years, each of the school sites in this district are allowed to make their priority decisions based upon the needs specific to the building at that time. And what I can tell you is there is really no district-wide recommendation for cut. That's for music cut. That's an honest and accurate statement. But what I will also tell you is there's been a priority shift at Eugene Field School as determined by quantifiers within their budget, and that is they're placing a larger emphasis on the increased need for technology in that school by adding a full-time media specialist, which is a $95,000 hit. In order to balance their budget, they had to make some reductions somewhere. And so they, as a school site, chose to reduce the music funding specific to that decision. You heard a little bit of discussion here tonight about the impact on other staff, and you're absolutely right, as determined by your collective bargaining agreement with the Teachers Association. We don't have any control over that. That's what we have to do. So if there's bumping going on or movement of staff, we have certain rules and regs to follow around that. But what I will tell you is that schools every year, especially when we're at flat funding, sometimes reduction in funding, and we're essentially at flat funding this year, struggle with how they can meet the needs of their school, their individual schools, when it comes to identifying their priorities, and in this case, a very specific and difficult, it's fair to say, decision was made at Eugene Field to prioritize the media specialists, which caused a reduction in music funding at that school. They have developed a plan to assume music instruction with each of the classrooms, albeit it's not a music teacher, and I get that. You're talking about a former music student myself. I spent a lot of years playing musical instruments, and it worked very well for me, and I know the value of that. So that's the struggle. How do we do that? How do you as a school board, how do we as a school district, which a variation of schools from 80 students to 1,250 students, come up with a unified system and unified system and formula which allows for the exact same thing at every school? Until you have schools, especially at the elementary level, that look very similar to each other and have similar demographics and configurations, that's going to be a challenge year after year after year after year. It's going to be difficult. Then the other question starts to be, if you as a district want to start having a discussion about, some sort of equalized music education across the district, I fully understand that, and I would gladly support that. The question is, what goes? We began having some pretty serious conversations about mental health needs in this school district, increasing and more complex needs related to special education in this school district. We have so many needs in this school district that continue to increase. We just got more legislative requirements today that from the state legislature that come unfunded. We now have to afford that specific to, what was it? Dental screening. We're now required to provide dental screenings for students with some of our most recent legislation. So it's just a very, very difficult time. And then you compound all that with inadequate, capital I, inadequate school funding for K-12 schools in the state of Oregon, and you're feeling firsthand, as are many people in the audience, a real conundrum, a real difficulty. I love music, and I wish we had music in every school, and you can quote me on that. But unfortunately, the reality is with our configuration of schools and the challenges that we have and the restrictions we have for state's full school funding, there has to be some give and take. And I surely will support whatever this board asks me to do. At the same time, you also have a difficult decision trying to honor the needs of each one of our community schools while at the same time meeting the district needs. And that's the position you're in. That's a hard one. So I surely empathize with each of the speakers this evening and empathize with you as you work through this challenging time.
Thank you for the clarification. I guess my there's always this perception out there that that the arts get cut before the sports.
Sure.
And maybe if there's some, maybe if we got some stories from the athletic department about some of the cuts and changes that they've had to make, maybe it would help.
And they aren't making any changes that I'm aware of, Tom. Again, I don't have the budget in front of me, but I'm not aware of that. We focused on trying to keep current staffing both academically and extracurricularly, and we've been able to do that. In other words, the FTE at Eugene Field, while it's a reduction in music, the FTE is essentially the same. When it moves into Mark Twain next year, it's just changed because that's a different emphasis. So I'm not aware of any reductions specific to athletics, so sorry I didn't get to that answer right away.
No, I think that's a really fair question to ask, too.
I would just ask the
I think,
question.
just for the record, to make it clear that we have made cuts in athletics in the past, and we haven't brought those programs back, so it's very similar to music.
Yeah.
And there's also no reductions in music at the high school level coming up either. So it's, kind of depends on the building.
It wasn't really, trust me, that I wasn't asking the question as an accusation.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand, Tom.
It was just for clarification.
I just wanted to say that there weren't any music cuts at the high school level either.
I think you do bring up an interesting point, though, Tom, because the athletics relate specific to the high school, at least that's the large majority of them in this district. And I think it is, and Steve and I have had a couple of good conversations about this, about revisiting the funding formula for what that looks like from an equitable level, elementary and high school. You have a high school that has nearly 1,300 students at the beginning of the year, and your funding is based upon that October 1st enrollment. And that high school, you can put another couple hundred kids in that place. And again, considering the capacity for some schools to be able to increase their enrollment, and if the funding is based upon that increased enrollment, then is there sort of a benefit maybe to those that have more room and more capacity to grow as compared to an Evergreen or a Pratt or even a Central Howell that Dustin was referring to tonight, simply limited on the logistics of the building. Can we offer some adaptations to the funding formula that addresses that? So there may be a little bit more equitable funding for some of our elementary schools that may not be currently experiencing that. That doesn't make a direct connection to Eugene Field because that's one of our larger schools which has some capacity to grow, and we'll have some capacity to grow at Mark Twain. But it is an interesting proposition to consider, and one that Steve and I will continue as we move into next year.
Yeah, well, we've kind of done that with technology.
Right.
And so that might be interesting to look at that for some other programs too, the possibilities of doing that a little bit more in the future.
Well, I think it's just safe to say that the board recognizes, you know, the
Of
value
course,
of
yeah.
music, and
Yeah.
I mean, I feel the same way, and I think all of us probably say that, you know, we'll do everything we can to increase the music programs, but again, we have
The struggles.
the struggles, we have the constraints, we have
Yeah,
all the challenges that we face, but I
Yeah.
think every one of us here values it.
it's worth more conversation though. Okay, we are, yeah, you bet, Tom. We're gonna take a 5-minute break, and then we'll move into executive session under ORS 192660, exempt public records, sick leave bank request, and superintendent evaluation. So everyone, thanks for coming tonight, and we'll see you next time or down the road.